mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 5, Episode 3 of the Paramount Network's Yellowstone, entitled Tall Drink of Water. Now, Tall Drink of Water, the title, is based on a line that is uttered by a very unfortunate young lady who tries to flirt with Rip. And granted, she richly earned what she deserved, but she didn't know any better. But hey, pride coming before the fall, ma. I don't know what to tell you. That was a very arrogant move by that girl, but what is it? What do they say? Oh yes, fuck around and find out. But this was an enjoyable episode, but I think there's a lot of clues here that this show might not have much time left. Like there's just not a lot of seasons. Maybe this is the last one. I don't know. But you know, I talked last week about the formulaic nature of this show, particularly as it pertains to how they write Beth. But this week the show has some like moderately interesting events take place, but it's like nothing is particularly compelling, and I'm kind of left wondering if this is this show kind of out of ideas, or is it just like we're just too early in the season? Because I believe it's supposed to be 2 7-episode parts. So if they have a 14-episode plan for season 5, for me after 3 episodes to be like, I don't know if they're gonna plan. Like I know, I understand I might look like kind of a dumbass, but it does gotta feel like these storylines are like these aren't that interesting. What are we gonna do with this? But we opened the episode with another flashback to young John, and we learned that he too, like current John / Rip, has what seems to be a wolf problem. And the people, I guess the people in Montana at this time, or in this area around the Dutton Ranch, are upset because the wolves are killing their livestock. And this, I don't know if like a panel of politicians, I don't think they say who these people are, but this panel of people is basically like, no, there's no proof that these wolves that we got, I don't know why they specify that they came from Canada, because that's now the second time. Like this guy said the wolves came from Canada, and then in episode, I think 1, with the horse thieves or whatever, like that was like they ran over to Canada. They're like, oh, you guys don't seem like you're gonna actually punish these people. Like what problem does this show have with Canada? But anyway, these wolves are from Canada and they're killing these livestock. And this panel is like, no, we have no evidence of any wolf killings. And John's like, yeah, I got about 5. I have about 5 dead cows on my ranch that prove otherwise. And I love how once they get behind those closed doors, John assures everyone that he has proof that these wolves are in fact killing livestock, and that this happened on his ranch. And then he says if the fish and wildlife folks don't like seriously like break him off some loot for his losses, since they apparently don't know how to control their wolf population, there's gonna be a problem. And there's 2 things I like about that. One, I like how he first, when he checked the guy on calling him John, like, yeah, you don't know me like that. It's Mr. Commissioner Dutton to you. But then 2, mainly, I like how this scene combined with the final scene kind of make a nice bookend for the episode, right? Because both scenes feature like John-based threats, right? Because you have this flashback scene ends with John basically saying, if you don't give me money to compensate me for my losses, since you don't know how to do your job, we're gonna have a problem. And then the current day ends with Rip doing like a John-based threat, like you know that's the governor's daughter. If you arrest her, there's gonna be a problem. So it's like a direct threat from John and an indirect John threat. So I do like the kind of like how those 2 things tied together: the end of the flashback and then the end of the present day storyline. I don't know how these flashbacks with the wolves will connect with present day. Especially after only 3 episodes, but I think they're clearly going for something with the shared wolf story, like how they're both having wolf issues back then and currently. And I also think it's interesting too that even though John in present day is aware of Rip's wolf situation, he hasn't shared what we're seeing in the flashbacks. Like, why is he like, you know what? I went through something just like this. Have a seat, Rip. I'm going to tell you how I played out. But of course, if you do that, then you don't get to tell the story the way you want to tell it on the show. But that's the kind of thing you got to be able to write around, I guess. But they're clearly going for something with the shared wolf experiences and the John-based threats, but I don't know where it is yet, and it doesn't feel particularly compelling at the moment. But again, like I said, I'm not an asshole. It's 3 episodes in out of 14. Like, I feel like I should have a general idea a little bit more than I do, but I'm not gonna really give them shit for that just yet. And speaking of present day, I want to talk about what's going on outside of the flashbacks, kind of by character grouping. So I want to start by talking about the Duttons minus Casey, because I'm going to talk about Casey separately. The connecting present day with the flashbacks in a very direct way, we start the present day stuff by having the Fish and Wildlife Commission arrive at the ranch, which I think it's meant to look this way, because I think you have the flashback and then you have the opening theme, and then you have, even though it's Rip, you see Rip right away. Having the Fish and Wildlife people pull up for a second, it's like you're almost confused. Like, wait a minute, like I just saw a story that ended with a Fish and Wildlife reference, and now here they are, and it makes you really connect those two storylines since you have them essentially back to back. And the only thing that kind of like brings you out of that is the presence of Rip as current Rip. But they pay Rip a visit, and they tell him about obviously he knows all about the collars, but they tell him about the collars, and they ask him about wolves and whether or not he's had issues, and he's like, no, not really. And they have some incredibly sophisticated tracking. He said, like, they and also they make Rip go with them to do this search, which I thought was interesting. That they essentially bossed Rip around. He's like, the one guy's like, you want to come with us? And Rip's like, nah, I got a lot to do. He was like, I know that sounded like a question, but I like how he said it. Like, I know that sounded like a question, but when they get there, like, this tech is so sophisticated. They're having these collars. He's like, the wolves were here for like 3 hours, and they moved this way, and they were there for 1 hour. And I don't know, again, where this wolf storyline is going, but it feels very much like an F plot. Like, not the A plot, not the B plot, but like the F plot. But it's clearly important because it takes up a lot of time in the present day storylines, and then it's also being connected to the flashback, so it's important, and it's worthy of inclusion, but I just don't know where it's going, and it's not that interesting so far. And I'm feeling like after if in one more episode I don't at least have an idea of whether or not this is going someplace interesting, I'm gonna start to kind of feel a way about it. But right now I'm cool, but it needs to pick up. Let's see. Meanwhile, Beth hatches this plan to give away her ownership stake in Schwartz and Meyer. I can never remember the M part. And I think it's because there's a Better Call Saul place that's similar, Coakley, and I don't know, something like that. But there's something that's similar on Better Call Saul, and I think that's throwing me off. But she gives up her stake in the company, but she wants to keep the land, which she says is worth like $300,000. But she wants to put it in a conservator easement, and I'm not fully clear on the specifics, obviously, but from what I gleaned, Beth is essentially making it so that she can't be sued because she don't have no ownership in the company, but the conservator easementship allows, it protects the land, so that can't be taken either. So it essentially kind of fucks over the market equities people. Let's see. Dark-haired Beth. I'm not even gonna even bother to learn this woman's real name. Dark-haired, not real name, but her character's name, because why bother? What a blatant like Beth ripoff this character is. But dark-haired Beth and her partner in crime, this guy Ellis, they make their way to see Jamie. And I love how much of a badass Jamie is in this scene. He's so fucking petty. Like, he orders a cup of coffee for just for himself. He's very rude to these people. And on one hand, you're like, wow, look at Jamie being a badass. But then also you remember that he's learned from the best on how to treat people like shit. So it's like Jamie probably wouldn't have been this shitty to these people, but it's like his outlet, because anytime he interacts with Beth, he's catching shit, and shit rolls downhill. So like now that he doesn't have to deal with Beth, and he's now just Jamie in his role, he has power, which we sometimes forget since we often see him with John and Beth. We often forget how much power Jamie has. So when he gets in this meeting with dark-haired Beth and Ellis, he gets to throw his weight around a little bit. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was entertaining, but at the same time, it is like this reminder that basically he learned how to be shitty from Beth. And it's like, hurt people. Like, he has been hurt by Beth, and now he hurts other people. So it's like, even though since it's dark-haired Beth and Ellis, you don't mind it so much, but there is a part in the back, there is a piece of me in the back of my mind that is reminded that this is coming from a place of hurt. Like, this has happened to Jamie, and now he's doing it to other people. But they kind of do, they being dark-haired Beth and Ellis, they kind of do like this good cop, bad cop sort of thing. Like Ellis comes hard with the lawsuit and he's coming with all the legal shit, and Jamie has a retort for everything that he's saying. And then he ends up just kind of like going down to, but you promised and now you're being mean. And Jamie basically just get the fuck out of my office. Like, he doesn't say that, but that's how this guy is treated, and he leaves. And then dark-haired Beth kind of does the softer approach. She lays out some facts of her own, which are pretty compelling, because she talks about, I don't know how Montana is going to make money. Apparently there's a moratorium on, as she said, timber, oil, and something else. And then you take away the money that they're not going to get from all this development, and then businesses aren't going to be able to build because we wait for permits. And she's like, I don't know where you're going to get some money from. She's like, I'm not here for the lawsuits. I don't give a fuck about that. She basically is like, I want to make a deal. I want to compromise. And she invites Jamie to dinner, which is a very big indication that Jamie is going to do something incredibly stupid, like fall for this woman and let somebody who is his sister with a wig on play him in the exact same manner his sister would do something like that. And I'm gonna sit here and go, why are they making Jamie so fucking stupid to an implausible degree? Hopefully that's not what happens, but that's what my gut is telling me, is that Jamie is going to be stupid to an implausible degree. And implausible given that this character of dark-haired Beth is very much just dark-haired Beth. So he should be able to see through anything she might be doing. But I think that's when that happens, and I feel fairly certain it will. When that happens, that will be another piece of evidence that I kind of feel like the show has run out of ideas. Moving on to talking about Rainwater briefly, he seems to have a new political opponent who's painting him as working for the white man, so it's probably not going to go too well for Rainwater over at the reservation. He says, like, the only people going to make money is the white man and Rainwater. Like, that's like, you really can't shit on anybody anymore on the reservation than to say that they working for the white man. Like, that's even worse. That's worse than when we do it in the black community. But also that chick Angela, that evil lawyer lady, she also seems to have her sights set on him as well, and she is now one of what I consider to be two characters on this show who are like cartoonishly evil. Like, they feel like cartoon characters. They feel like caricatures. And again, another example of how I kind of feel like this show is running out of time, because their characters are becoming almost, they've left all kind of reality and plausibility where you feel like these are real people, and they've kind of moved into like Yosemite Sam territory. And I'm just, Angela's one of them, and I liked her when they first introduced her as like as an opponent to Beth, but now she's just become just one of many, and now they've kind of moved her into this weird kind of like dastardly fucking mustache twirling evil lady role, and I'm not a fan. Talking about Casey, speaking of people I'm not a fan of, Casey continues to be by far the least interesting character on the show. He decides he's going to quit his current job because every time he does it, something terrible happens to his family, and he's going to choose his family over his job. He seems to want to be moving forward with some sort of government role, since Rainwater is like, I can't really offer you a job because if I bring in a white man to police my people, it's going to look like you policing my people. Which was an excellent point. I can't remember how he worded it. He worded it in a very specific way, but it was very much like, when it's our own people, it's one thing. If I bring in a white man to do it, it's a whole different thing. And I thought that was a great point. But I could not find Casey less interesting. Rainwater and Mo tell him that it sounds like they're going to have like like they expect Casey's dead child to go on like this afterlife journey, and he's gonna need like a ghost horse to take him. And even Casey's like, you want me to kill a horse? They're like, no, the horse will kill itself. Mo's like, the horse will kill itself when it's time. And I'm just like, I know they're not about to do like this mystical journey plot line for Casey 2 seasons in a row. Like, I really hope they're not gonna do that. I think they've been doing this thing with Casey where it's like him, like a piling up of reasons for him to separate from the ranch, but it's like you've been doing that since like season 1, episode 1. Like, I'm already bored with it, and now you're gonna do mystical journey again? Like, man, if I was the actor who plays Casey, like, I'd be reading the script like, are you gonna give my character anything interesting? Casey ain't been interesting since season 1. Man, and Casey was really interesting in season 1, but ever since I feel like they've been doing this thing of like him wanting to stay with Monica and not wanting to fuck that up, and her wanting him off the ranch and him wanting to stay. I feel like they've been doing that for the last 4 seasons, and I don't know. It's tired. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up real quick with a very succinct description of what happened amongst our bunkhouse crew. They're all hanging out for Lloyd's 58th birthday. More on that later, because Lloyd does look every single bit of 70. And I looked it up. The actor is 63, by the way. But they're playing cards in the bunkhouse for Lloyd's birthday. Beth wants to celebrate how much she screwed over market equities. So they decide they're going to go to a bar. And Rip's like, no, I don't want to go to a bar, because the bar in Bozeman, the bar in Bozeman is all fake cowboys. And when you put real motherfucking cowboys like us in a bar with fake ass cowboys like them, motherfuckers always end up scrapping. So no, we're not going to do this. And Beth's like, oh, you said no? Let's all get our coats on. And so, so they all decide to leave, and they go to the bar. And as I mentioned at the top, Miss Tall Drink of Water comes up and flirts with Rip. Bad move. Worst move is when Rip says, that's my wife over there, I fucking you right now, looking like she's gonna fucking kill you. And she goes, I got it. And from that point on, everything goes exactly as you would expect it to go. This woman catches a bottle to the head. She gets punched. And then even when they've got everybody outside all lined up, ready to be arrested, Beth comes over and sneaks another one in on her as well. And essentially what ends up happening is the Bozeman cops come by and they're like, yeah, you know, you guys came here and fucked shit up. And Rip is I don't like Rip in this scene. Like, Rip is very, do you know who she is? Like as if he didn't do anything wrong, as if they weren't in the wrong. Like, Beth started all of this. Beth's the reason they went to the bar in the first place. Beth started a fight, and Rip is so haughty with his like, well, the bouncer grabbed her. You grabbed my fucking wife, it's gonna be a problem. Like, yeah, okay, that is a deflection, bro. Like, that has not, like, you found some way to justify all the fuckery that your people got into. You found one thing and honed in on that, like, oh, the bouncer grabbed my wife. Like, it completely made it sound as if that thing that happened after the fact completely justifies everything else that happened. Like, Rip was so full of shit in this scene. Like, this is the first time that I watched Rip, and I'm like, fuck, like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then he tells the guy, like, yeah, you know there's gonna be a problem, right? And I'm just like I feel like Rip thinks he has a leg to stand on as far as like being in the right. I feel like you tell this to John. Yes, John is governor, and yes, that's his daughter, but John is also reasonable, and he knows that Beth is fucking crazy. I feel like John hears about this and goes, all right, get Beth out of jail, but if you think I'm gonna give this guy shit for arresting my daughter for something she absolutely deserved to be arrested for, think again. Like, I feel like John is gonna be a little bit more level-headed, but Rip was so full of shit in this scene, man. Like, I already talked about it. I'm not gonna reiterate it, but yeah, like Rip was on one in this scene. So I'm gonna close it with a couple of quick thoughts. One, this show seemingly will never run out of like breathtaking landscape shots. Again, love it. John has an interesting line when Beth is leaving to go to Salt Lake City at the beginning of the episode. He's sitting outside in the morning, and she asks him why he's up so early, and he says he's reflecting. And he's like, the evening is for forgetting, and the mornings are for reflecting. And I thought, like, I feel the opposite. Like, in the morning, I'm trying to forget the previous day and focus on everything I gotta do on the current one. At night is when I chill and reflect. So, like, saying it as the opposite seems kind of weird. I don't know. Like I mentioned earlier, it's Lloyd's 58th birthday, and the line of the episode and possibly of the series is when it's revealed Lloyd is 58 and not 70, and someone, I can't remember who it was, someone goes, you got cancer or something? That was a cold-blooded line, man. Rip telling Carter that they don't ship out orphans and that he's gonna make a cowboy out of them one day is probably the closest thing that Carter's gonna get to an apology from Rip for treating him like shit in the last episode. But the problem is, I'm sure Rip doesn't feel like he was too hard on this kid. But I'm watching and I'm just like, that he made it, like, it was an accident. Like, he made a mistake. Yes, you gotta kill this horse, but like, it's not like he was like playing on his phone or some shit and like the horse steps, like, I don't know. I feel like Rip has been way too hard on this kid. And the whole scene with the saddle last week, when the kid's taking too long to get the saddle on, and Rip's like, Lloyd, just watch this. I don't have time for this fucking shit. Like, he's all pissed off, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like Rip treats Carter like shit, and I feel like that's not an apology even from Rip's perspective, but I think from any other human's perspective, that was a Rip version of an apology. Even though if you ask Rip and you're like, was that your version of apology? He'd probably say, fuck you, apologize for what? And then like I mentioned earlier about characters who are cartoonishly dastardly, that old lady Caroline is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I know I mentioned it last week, but I want to reiterate just how cartoony that old lady is. Like, couple her with dark-haired Beth, and like I said, I just feel like the show has kind of ran out of ideas with these characters and some of these plot lines. But again, I'm going to withhold judgment. We're only 3 episodes in. There's a whole lot of Yellowstone left, so we'll see what happens. I don't know if I'm going to cover the whole season. The first video did not do well. If this one doesn't do well, couple that with the fact that I feel like the show's kind of running out of steam, I'm not going to cover it anymore. If this video does well, I'll keep covering it. I don't plan that it will, but if it does, I will see you guys next week for episode 4, and until then, peace.